Welcome to the Austin Adobe User Group meeting and Happy New Year. This is our first meeting of 2025. We're glad to be alive. And tonight we have one of our regular presenters, Cornelius Chopin, who usually has the puns and the rhymes for us. He's been teaching with the Austin Adobe User Group here in Austin on the second Thursday of every month for decades, I think. Profession. Yes, we started out as the Austin Macromedia User Group, and he is currently working as an accessibility specialist. Can you tell us a little bit about your current activities? And then you're going to be showing us something very exciting about the new 3D tools in Photoshop. So thank you, Cornelius.
Yeah, I've graduated, got promoted from an accessibility specialist to accessibility coordinator, which is a step up from what I used to do. But I've been with the state almost 13 years. I got 2 more years left before I retire. Less than 2 years, actually, before I retire. But I've been there longer than it's been good. But anyway, we're going to be talking about tonight is the Adobe Photoshop 2025, and I'm looking at the other screen here, new 3D engine. In the old days, 5 years ago, you used to get import 2D object or 3D objects into Photoshop and edit it and animate it within Photoshop. Well, they took that away about 5 years or so ago. Now you can do it, but you can't use Photoshop. You have to use another software. So before we get started, let me talk about the three things you're going to need before you do this project. First of all, you need, let me just open up the, actually, let me just share my screen because that would be useful. Share screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep, we see it.
Okay, so the first thing you need is, let me open it up. You're going to need to download the Photoshop beta. Okay, this is 2025 beta, or 26.3 to be exact, right? So you're going to need to download the latest and greatest version, beta version. Doesn't work with regular Photoshop, and it's free. You go to your Creative Cloud and you go under beta apps right here, and then you download whatever you want. In this case, we need to download the beta, Photoshop beta. And more importantly, you need to download this Substance 3D viewer, and it's in beta as well. Now, I don't know if this is going to eventually become part of Photoshop or not, but it's needed to do what we do tonight. So you need these two applications, Photoshop and the Substance 3D viewer. We'll see what that is about in just a little bit, in order to import 3D objects into Photoshop. And we'll see how to do that in just a minute. So you need those two things. Then the third thing you need, obviously, is a 3D object. And so you can go to, and I have a link to that. I had a link to it. Let me see if I didn't close it out. Yeah, so right here, if you go to stock.adobe.com, you can download any asset you want, provided you have a subscription, or you can download free assets. So the way I downloaded a sports card, I'm going to show you the sports card that I downloaded. You want to go to the free category right here, select free, and then type in whatever you want to find. In this case, I want to search for a car. And it's going to give me a list of cars, but what I want in particular is a 3D car. So I'm going to select the 3D option right here where I'm hovering. And you're going to click on the download button right here, and you're going to download that car. So three things you need. You need Photoshop, Substance 3D viewer, and then some type of 3D object. So this is the 3D object we're going to be talking about and working with tonight.
Dude, I'm just telling you, Adobe stock, I mean, if I've used their, like the last couple of years, it's just been great. And that free stuff is awesome. It's a big selection, you know.
Uh-huh.
You couldn't use it all the time or every day, but I'm surprised. It's like one of my go-to places when I just need something. Adobe Stock. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. That's good to know. So anyway, you want to download a 3D object. In this case, I'm gonna download, I've already downloaded, just for the sake of time, this object right here. So now let's go to Photoshop, open up a file, and open an insert, open up a background image. And I've already done that just for the sake of time. So let me open up Photoshop, or display Photoshop. Can you guys see Photoshop on my screen?
Well, I just see the buildings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You see
I
that?
don't. Oh yeah, your Photoshop. It's all there. Yep.
Yeah. So what I want to do is I basically imported this image. I forget where I got it from another program that I use to create my graphics background. It's a lovely program. Create Studio, by the way, if you want to take a look at it. I love that program. Anyway, I basically took a screenshot inside of that program and I'll put it in, open it up in Photoshop. Notice a little red car right there. That's part of the image. We're going to bring in a literal 3D object into this image. Okay, so let's do that. Again, you can't manipulate 3D object within Photoshop. You got to go use another program, the 3D Substance Viewer, that we're going to be doing in just a minute. So let's go to, let's show you rather, how to import a 3D object into Photoshop. Do File, and you want to do Place Embedded, okay? So you want to do a place embedded, and you want to navigate to a 3D object. Now, John knows this, I'm sure. 3D objects has a .obj extension on the end of it. It's kind of hard to see right there. This says sports underscore car .obj. That's a 3D file.
Is
Okay.
that a new extension? I've never seen it before.
No, that's been around for decades.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
an
Oh
old.
yeah. That's,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And you can get a lot of 3D objects from all over the place. I probably got tons of these. I had these things called, y'all too young to know about this, but I had these things called CDs. Y'all don't know about those. Uh, I'm being sarcastic. Uh, but I have a boatload, and that's a technical term, of 3D objects on CDs. But you can find 3D objects in a lot of places. Anyway, this is the one I downloaded yesterday or the day before from the stock.adobe.com website. So you select what you want to affect. You guys know that by now. You have heard me over the years, right? Uh, and you can see right here, Substance 3D Viewer format, all readable document. But you just click the place button. Just like you would place any image, particular vector image, inside of a Photoshop file. You hit the place button, and I have a slow computer, so give it a minute for it to load. So if you have any questions in the meantime, do ask it now. It's loading it. There we go.
Yep. To repeat what you said before, you get the viewer from Substance, or where the things you need to get, where do they come from?
Oh,
Is it
the
Adobe?
3D objects come from stock.adobe.com.
Oh, so it is all Adobe,
Yeah, it's all
not a
Adobe.
third party. Okay.
Substance 3D is the other thing you need to download, as well as Photoshop 2025 beta. You need to download the Substance 3D Viewer beta as well.
From
So
Adobe.
say it again.
I'm asking if it's from Adobe.
Yeah,
Substance
yeah,
is
yeah. It's
something that
all
Adobe
Adobe.
makes.
Yeah, everything
Okay,
we
thank
do
you.
is Adobe. So now that I have your 3D object, you hadn't committed it yet. Let me move this up my way. So it's not committed yet, right? Just like when you place an image inside of Photoshop, you have to commit it. And you do that either by clicking on the checkbox up at the top, like whenever you do transformation, you have the little checkbox, or you click the done button down at the bottom here. This is that new, I love this menu, context sensitive menu, right? So either one of those will commit that object to this stage. So I'm gonna click the done button, and it's committed. Obviously, it is a flying car right now. We don't want that. Uh, I guess maybe we do. Uh, it is a smart object. Now, you know what a smart object is. It's an object that is smart. Okay. Basically, an object in an object that you can preserve the resolution. That's what a smart object is. So basically, this 3D object is encapsulated in a what we refer to as a smart object. Now, you know you have a smart object. It may be hard to see, but there's a little small icon right here to let you know that this is a 3D smart, a smart object rather. Now that we have this object committed, we need to go inside of it to manipulate it because obviously we don't want it just up in the air right here. So let's double click on this, or you can click on edit content in the properties panel. So you get edit contents right here, or I prefer to double click on the thumbnail, the smart object thumbnails, because I'm that's the kind of person I am. Click, double click makes me happy. Okay, so I'm gonna double click on that, and it's gonna open up another program on top of Photoshop, hopefully. And so you can see this is the Substance 3D viewer. This is Photoshop up at the top, over to the side. You see that? And this is that image and the 3D object inside of another program, which is called Substance 3D Viewer. It's the beta version of it. Now, obviously, we don't want the car floating here, so we need to move it down and rotate it and all that fun stuff. So let's talk about that for just a little bit. I love 3D. I know John loves 3D. So when you're dealing with 3D, you're dealing in what we call 3D space, right? I love to say that. You know, when you want to impress your friends, say, you manipulate an object in the X, Y, and Z coordinates, and they'll think you're smart. Right? So we want to manipulate that object, but we need to figure out how to do that. Well, there's several different ways to manipulate the object depending upon the type of device you have. If you have a three mouse button, you're going to manipulate it a different way. In fact, let me just click on it to show you that you get these little options down at the bottom here. If you have a three mouse button, if you got a two mouse button, you click on this, and it shows you what you need to use to manipulate the object with a two button mouse. Or if you have a trackpad, it'll tell you how to use the hand gestures, if you will, how you pinch things to expand it and what have you. So I have a two button mouse, so that's what I'm gonna select. Okay. So now that I've selected the device type that I want to manipulate my 3D object, remember in 3D space, you always got to say that at the end of the sentence. Let's talk about each one of these options here. Okay, so this first option is called orbit. Okay, and then a good way to remember this is think how the planet orbits the solar system, right? So you can see how it's kind of rotating a little preview right there. Rotate your view to get different angles. So this option will rotate your object along the X, Y, and Z axis at a defined point. And it's not going to go forward and backwards. Now, let me illustrate that so you can understand this a little bit better. I'm holding on the right mouse button. And now, so I can rotate this, but if you can imagine, let me move this over. If you can imagine there's a tripod right underneath this car, right in the center underneath that car, you appreciate this a lot better. Imagine a tripod underneath there, and I'm holding on my right mouse button, and it's going to rotate in a direction that I want it to, but it's not going to go over here, it's not going to go over here, it's not going to go up, it's not going to go down. It's literally tied to that tripod of sort, right? This invisible tripod. I was wanting to do that, but this is Substance 3D and not Photoshop. But I think you guys understand where I'm going with that.
Any idea what the technical term for that point that it rotates around is called?
That's probably the center. John, what would you call that? You would know better than me.
Anchor point.
Anchor point, yeah, I guess you could say the anchor point.
That sounds like a good answer. Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds like a good answer. I love that. Okay. So you could take that, hold on your right mouse button and rotate that however you want. You go see the underside of the car, the side, you can turn it around, see the back of it, So you can hover over this, and it's like you literally just rotating that on this being tied to the to the bottom center of that car. So that's what that button orbit does. This next button is pan. You're going to use the left mouse button to pan, and you guys know what pan is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you go to the right or the left or the right or up or down. So this is like taking that car that is on a tripod and moving both the car and the tripod left or right or up or down. Okay, you guys kind of tracking me with that, the tripod?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's, if you can visualize that with me, literally, again, keep thinking that tripod is still attached to the car. I can literally walk over here and move it that way, move it that way, move it up, just raise it up. I had to be really strong to do that, and raise it down, right? So that's what that pan does. Now,
You're basically
dolly,
changing its XY position on the screen.
right, that's what they call translation, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like technical terms, right? There's
Translation?
translation and there's positioning, okay? So those are the terms when you use 3D things. Uh, so I think that's translation, okay? Okay, so now the next type of 3D manipulation that you may encounter, if you're a movie buff like John is, you know about dolly, right? A lot of times you see these movie where these guys on the camera with the wheels on it, and they're rolling down, following the action, right? That's what this is akin to. So dolly, the way it works is you hold on now I don't know why they have Alt as the key, because I'm on a Mac, and there's no Alt key on a Mac. So obviously they got to correct that.
There's an
So
option key. That's the
right,
equivalent.
and yeah. So for the Mac, it's the Option key. Remember, Alt or Option on the Mac and PC. Command and Control is the two keys for Mac and PC, right? So instead of the Alt key, which they need to fix that because I don't have no Alt key, but I'm holding on the Alt or the Option key, and then I'm going to click and I'm gonna click the right mouse button. That's what I need to do, and I can grow, or I could reduce the size of the car. I can make a really big car, or I can make a little toy car,
You're
right?
zooming on it.
So you zoom in, but you zoom in only the object, and that's important in the next thing that I'm going to be explaining. The background is not zooming, only the object is zooming in and out. So keep that in mind. Okay, and then what I want to do is, because I want the car to face that direction, and I'm using the right mouse button only to rotate it. And then I'm gonna use the other button, the left mouse button, to bring it down. So you get used to how to do this really fast. Um, and then again, I'm gonna use Option key and maybe reduce that just a tad bit, and then do that. Okay, so that's what that is. That's the dolly. So you got orbit, pan, and dolly. Now the next thing you can do is pan the canvas. Now pan the canvas is almost like using the hand tool, right, or the spacebar tool in Photoshop to pan the canvas. So if I hold on the Option key, they say Alt key here, but actually it's the Option key uh, on the Mac, and then the left mouse button. Now see, I can pan the canvas. Okay, I can go over here, I go over there, I go up and down, but the whole canvas is being panned, right? That's what panning does with the Alt and the left mouse key. Now there's a zoom canvas. So let's do that one. This one uses the Command and Control. So it says Control. We don't have it's actually the Command key on the Mac. They need to correct that. And you use the plus or minus key to increase or decrease the size. Now, in this case, I'm panning, or rather, I'm zooming the whole image, not just the object in the image, but the whole image. You guys saw the difference? When I did the dolly, I was just zooming in and out on the object. Where I'm doing the zoom canvas, the whole image is being zoomed out. So let me do the dolly to show you the difference again. So if I go back to this dolly mode, I'm gonna use the Option key and the right. So you see, I'm just, and I'm zooming in and out on the object, not the whole image. Sort of a distinct difference between the two. Okay, so let me use the Control key, and I'm gonna make this a bit bigger so you guys can see that better. Okay, so that's good. Actually, I'm gonna make it just a little bit
May I ask
small.
a question?
Yeah.
Are the objects in the background 3D or 2D?
Oh, that's just an image. That whole
It's
everything in
just
the
a flat
background.
image.
Yeah, it's a flat image. But this is
It's
a 3D
interesting because,
object right here.
right, because just the perspective makes everything look very deep.
Yeah. But that is a
Hmm.
flat 2D image that I
Okay,
got for
thank
another
you.
program.
Hmm.
Okay, so now that you know how to bring in an object, import it, right? Place it, and then you got to manipulate it using all your manipulation tools, depending upon the type of device you have, right? I happen to have a two button, rather not 2D, but two button mouse, and I can manipulate it using these options down at the bottom here. And I guess you click on there on this, and it gives you more information about that. Okay, so now that you have an object in your image, then you're gonna want to maybe change the material of the object, right? The look and feel for us non-geeks folks, right? You can change the look and feel of the object. So the way to do that is you go to the appearance tab. That's this the paint palette, if you will, and it'll allow you to. It says no material for selection, and y'all know my golden rule: only what's selected
It's
is
affected.
about what you do next. So I got to select something that I want to affect, right? So if I click here, notice I can select a certain portion of that car. If I click here, I'm gonna select the back of the car and kind of the bottom. If I click here, I'm actually selecting all four wheels, but you only see two wheels being selected because you can't see the other side of the car. Now let me just spin this, if you will, because I know I can use my orbit function, right? So I can use this, and you can see the other side, see all four wheels are being selected. So even though you can't see four wheels selected, all four of these wheels are being selected, and guess what? All four wheels will be affected by what you do next. Okay, so you can select what you want. You can select the the glass, the front of the car, the back of the car, the wheels, or whatever you want. Okay, just kind of click to get to what you want. Now, once you select what you want to affect, you can come over here and change it. Now, you got to kind of know when you create a 3D object, you create a 3D object, but you create what they call, and John helped me out, is a bump map, right? Or there's some type of map that you map all of the texture of that object onto the image. And that's what this is right here. It kind of looks kind of funky. Uh, but this is that the right term, John? A bump map?
Well, and bump map kind of refers to lighting too, but so that's not the, I mean, those are materials that you're applying to the surface.
Right. So this
Um,
is not, there may not be bump map, but this is the image that is, and as you can see, it's an image right here. Okay. That is used to map, so you kind of see all of all of the highlights of your car right here, this, that, all of this, right? That's what this little thing. Now, all of that's created in a 3D program, so you don't have to worry about that. Uh, now, so you could change the image, which I'm not going to mess with, or you could change the color. Okay, so you can select another color. Let me just do blue. Okay, so you can change the color. Now the problem is once you do that, you got to be careful because sometimes you'll lose this image, but you can change the color of the car as well. Now, obviously, I guess I could have it red, white, and blue, all American, but I could select the back of the car, which is probably would be a good thing to do, and then select the color again, and I can change it to a blue as well. So you can change the color, the texture, whatever of the car. Now, once you get the car the way you want it, you can change the color of the tires or the texture of the tire, the material of the tire. You can do the metallic roughness. Again, we're not going to go over all of this. Um, and so you kind of play around with all these settings, but basically you manipulate the appearance of the car, right? With these settings, and you collapse these. And if I click on it, you can see there's different options that gets highlighted depending upon what gets selected. Okay. So again, you can just change whatever you want on that object in order for you to change it. Now, besides changing the texture map and the color of an object, in this case, a sports car, you can come down here. Now, you got to be careful with this one. This material preset. What it does is provide you with a list of, if you work with any program, 3D program, you'll see this, a list of presets that you can apply to an object. And then it's basically when I remember when I didn't apply any color, it was a gray color, right? That's the default base color, the primer, if you will, for you painters out there. And then you have ceramic. So you have these ceramic type colors. And then you have fabric, right? You know, the different types of fabric, cotton, denim, linen, nylon, satin. Satin is kind of cool. And then you have leather, okay, for you rich folks, okay? And then you have metal. So let's make a gold car. What about that? That'd be cool. Now, again, once you commit this, the current version of with this program, Substance 3D Viewer, doesn't allow you to undo it. So keep that in mind. And it may take a while for it to commit this, but you'll see it. And this is just the front of the car that I have selected, so that's the only one that will get affected. Hopefully, it doesn't take too long to process. So let's see if that happens. Any questions while we wait?
Are you gonna go into the environment after this, or can you move the lighting on
Yeah,
it?
we're gonna talk about that next.
Yeah, that's what I figured, so I didn't want to ask. I'm really excited about that. Well, we can uh tell a joke in our waiting. Oh, it's done already.
Ooh,
Okay.
man, look at that gold car. So I got to do the back end too. Ooh. And that was gold, right? And then again, it's not. Ooh, look at that. There you go. That's 99% pure gold, by the way.
It must have, I'm thinking it must have somehow pre-processed the whole car, because when you chose the back part, it was like
Right.
almost instant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now I saw that because the first part took quite a while. When I did the second one, it didn't take as much time.
Right.
So I could do the wheels, have gold wheels. You know, I don't want to go crazy on this, but you guys get the drift, right? Okay, so you change whatever you want as far as the material. So again, you can change the appearance of it, different parts of the car, the object in this case, right? Different types of material, leather, metal, paint. You got paint, you got paper, you got plastic. Now, I kind of like the way they categorize these, right? That's helpful, I think, particularly for beginners, right? You got stone and you got translucent, which is kind of transparent, right? So I kind of like the way they characterize those the different material preset, and that's a technical term, material presets. So you have a whole slew of them. I'm collapsing these so I can see what they have. So again, there's basic, there's ceramic, there's fabric, leather, metal, paint, paper, plastic, rubber, stone, translucent, and wood. So you got a wholesome material. You know, you can make it look like a brick car, right? A wood car or whatever. So you can add various types of material. So again, you do that. Now, after you do that, you may want to change the lighting on the car. Okay, the environment, as John was alluding to in a minute ago. Okay, so you go to this option right here, which is called the environment, and you can change the brightness of the light, if you will. Let me just do this to show you. See if I brighten this up. I'm washing it out, right? That's not too good because I'm really shining a big spotlight on it, blowing away all of the details of the car. That's not a good thing. But you guys can understand what the brightness is doing. I'm just basically increasing the light intensity, if you will. Obviously, that's a little bit too much. But it was good to illustrate what it does. And then you could do the rotation of the light. And I really like the rotation of the light. Because a lot of times, depending upon the image, you want to have the light coming from the right source, depending upon the image, or what's in the image, right? So if I rotate the light, you kind of see how it's kind of rotating around, as if though there's a light that's orbiting, remember that word orbiting, right? around the object. And I'm gonna put it, let me see. I kind of like that. Okay, you kind of pick it wherever you want, but I kind of like that. So you can rotate the light. Okay, you can change the brightness of the light and the rotation of the light. Now, there's other things you can do, as in all 3D programs. You can enable what they call the ground plane. Now, that's a technical term for 3D artists, designers. That means basically you want to make the object where it can cast a shadow. I would have preferred to call this cast a shadow. That's a little bit easier for me to understand. I'm not that technical. Okay, so ground plane enable. So you select this toggle switch, pay attention to a drop shadow that will appear. So let's select that. Bam. You guys see that little faint drop shadow?
Would you toggle it, please?
Yeah, let me turn it on, off.
Wait, that's on.
Okay, that's on,
and
that's off.
That's off. Sure, big difference.
It's like my eye doctor. He said number 1 or number 2. I can never tell a difference, right? Okay, so that's what that does. So that turns on the ambient drop shadow. Okay. Now there's another option underneath here that is dimmed out. Anytime you see things grayed out, mean it's disabled, right? So my question is, how do I enable that? Well, in order to enable reflection, you need to do what they call a render. Okay, so you need to render this thing. This is not actually rendering. It's just kind of a low resolution of that object in that image. So there's an option up here that you select right here called ray tracing. That's the technical term. Okay, turn on ray tracing to render light, shadows, transparency more accurately. And it's still showing lights and shadow, but this is going to give a better resolution of that when you do this ray tracing. This is the high-end stuff, right? Now, it's going to slow your computer down to a crawl. And since I have a slow computer, it's going to slow down my computer, but you'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to click on this, and you kind of see it's kind of pixelated. It's taking its time. Slowly but surely, it's going to come into focus because it's still rendering. Again, I got a slow computer, so bear with me. I think it's finished rendering. And so basically it should be, and in my case, it doesn't really look that much different. But if you have a better computer than I do, it would look photorealistic. That's the technical term, right? And not kind of pixelated. So that's what that ray tracing is when you turn it on. Now, the reason why I saved that for last, always save the best for last, don't we? The reason why I saved the rendering for last is because when you enable the rendering, it enables the reflection enable, okay, option. Remember, it was disabled a moment ago, right? Until I render it. Now I have a toggle switch. If I click on it, typically not what you want to do, but notice if you can see here, it render a reflection. Now, typically you wouldn't want to have a reflection of the car because that's not a glass surface or a glossy surface to really render a reflection, but the idea is that you can render a reflection of an object. And there are cases where you want to do that. In this case, obviously, you probably don't want to do that. But when you do that, what you can also do is change the opacity of the reflection, right? Because typically you don't want a hard reflection, right? You want to soften it, right? And so you could change the reflection opacity. That's what this is. And so I'm going to bump that down and pay attention there. And now you can see it's becoming less of a reflection. Okay, let me bump it down a little bit more. Again, you probably don't want to do that on this image. But if that was water something, water would be a good example of an object you could want to reflect something on, right? But can you guys see the reflection down here? Can y'all see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
If you wanted to give the reflection a ripple, if it was water, could you do that?
I'm not sure if you can do that. It's going to reflect whatever the shape of the object is.
Mhm.
You could probably go to Photoshop
It's
and manipulate.
actually in this opaque condition, very impressive.
And then you can what is this, reflection roughness, so you can rough it up a little bit. And again, I have a slow computer, so it's fighting it. But and actually it kind of went away altogether. I probably gave it too much roughness. So if you got a fast computer like Karen, you could probably do this a lot better. Okay, so you can see a little subtle, faint rendering right there, right? Okay, so there you have it. So what we've done is we downloaded Photoshop 2025 beta, downloaded Custom 3D beta, and we downloaded a 3D object, that sports car that you see. Then we imported it into Photoshop, right, and placed it. And then we double click on the thumbnail or click on edit contents, and it opens up in a new program called Substance 3D Viewer. And then you can manipulate, depending upon the mouse type or the trackpad that you have, you can manipulate the object wherever you want. And you can change the material, you can change the lighting, the drop shadow, ray tracing, just have fun with that. Okay, so now you got, because I mean, obviously you need Dubai. You got to have an expensive car in Dubai. This, by the way, this is Dubai, right? I believe. So you got to have an expensive car in Dubai, right? So you want a gold car. Now that we have that, how do you get this back to Photoshop? Okay, well, that's easy. They got a to Photoshop button right here. Guess what that does? Guess what that does? Anybody? Being sarcastic there. It sends it back to Photoshop. Okay, so when I
Where
click
would
on
you
this,
point with your cursor? Where is it? Oh,
right
upper
here,
right.
yeah. So it says to Photoshop, and there's a
I
tooltip that
see. Got
says
it.
send to Photoshop. Now this might take a while, but you're gonna see that same image inside of Photoshop whenever it processes. Hopefully it will. And so that's the old version. So it hadn't finished rendering it yet. So when it finished rendering, you're gonna see what you saw in Custom 3D. So it may take a minute or two, or maybe three. I think it took me a while for this thing to render it. And it's gonna come in, it's gonna come into Photoshop, hopefully, in a minute. So that's what it is. That's what it looked like. Maybe why it's, I don't know how you can tell how far it's processing. Okay, it's reading down here, completed task. Let's see. Let me see. Well, I think what I did was I had to get out of Substance 3D, and then it rendered it into Photoshop. So let me get out of Substance 3D. I'm gonna hit save, and hopefully I don't lose everything. Didn't I save it? Save changes to Substance 3D document before closing. Yeah. I guess it's still rendering it, so that's the reason why it's not letting me save it. So it's kind of doing its little thing. And I'm hoping it can process it. It's still got the old version there. So give it a minute. Any questions while we wait?
When's the snow gonna end?
I don't know. I've heard about snow. I'm not sure when it's going to start and when it's going to end. I could deal with the snow. I just don't like ice.
Yeah. Uh, I know I grew up in the Midwest and just the winters, I'm like, I think there's a law in Iowa where I was born and went to school, that once you hit 60, you have to move to either Florida or Arizona.
Well, there was rumors of snow here in Round Rock, if you could believe that, but I hadn't seen anything.
Oh, right.
Uh,
No, I remember Snowmageddon there in
oh yeah,
Austin.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, it has been cold though. It's been up in the 20s and 30s here of late. I
Right.
think it's still processing. Uh, yeah. So let me see if I can do one more thing. I think it's still processing, but there's one other option that's available, and that's just right here. Everything is AI these days. You know that, right? I love AI. AI. So you click on this AI option right here, and you can tell it to do certain things. Now this one doesn't work too well, so this says text to 3D. So you can type in text and create a 3D object. Okay. But that doesn't seem to work too well. That's probably some refinement. But this one works fairly well, and hopefully it works tonight. It says 3D model to image. So what I want to do is I got a car, but I want to put a racetrack behind the car, right? So that's what I did last night. So I'm gonna type in as a prompt, right? I'm gonna type in racetrack right up here. I'm gonna type in racetrack. Make sure I spell it right. And then we hit the generate button. And let's see what it does. Now I took my car that I manipulated, right? Let's see if it can create a racetrack for me. That would be cool, wouldn't it? Woo! How cool is that? Is that slicker than slime? I mean, you know slime is slick.
Oh wow, huh? And they did it blended in there too, the shadow, the angle matching the sun and all that.
And not only that, but it gave you several options.
Uh,
Now,
uh,
again, it may not be perfect, but
yeah,
it's good enough for what we call government work. That's I always like to say that because I work
yeah.
for the government. And then you can select the
That's a
option.
pretty low bar.
Yeah. Don't get me started.
Yeah, right.
All right, I can say that. Um, I even say it on a job, so it isn't. It's true. Uh, so anyway, isn't that nice though? I mean, all I just typed in racetrack, and I mean, if I had to go hunt down an image to match this car, it would have taken me an hour just to do that. And this literally was like 2 seconds for crying out loud, right?
Well, yeah, and then it matched the lighting. I mean, that's
Lighting and everything.
yeah, to me, that's the whole impressive thing.
Now, the older version, because I used to do this all the time, of Photoshop, where you could import 3D object, you could also animate the 3D object. So I could take this car and animate it along that track. You can't do that with this version because this is a totally different type of program. But this is impressive. I mean, if I want to create I'm in Dubai, right? And I need to have a nice gold, not gold car, right? 99% gold. Um, this is not too bad. And then let me see if
Was the thing that bugged me about this was
and I'm
maybe
still,
yeah, now I don't know, but I couldn't go from here into After Effects. I couldn't set it up in Dimension and then go to After Effects.
oh, is that right?
Yeah, but that was when they first introduced it, all that. So I don't know. Things may have changed. I'll research that.
Now, for some reason, again, my two Photoshop option is dimmed out right now. It may eventually show up here, but right now it's showing me just my initial import view of the car. But once it renders, and because I have a slow computer, it should look like this, or the other one that I had where they had the background, the Dubai background in the back. So either one of those gets saved. into Photoshop. Because again, this is not Photoshop. That's Photoshop, right? So let me see if I get out of this, because sometimes, let me see if I hit save. It says successfully save snapshot. Okay, open folder. Let me see what that does. Maybe it saved it to some folder. It's still not processing it. But the bottom line is, this is what you're going to get once it process it into Photoshop. That's not too bad. I mean, again, it's in beta, so obviously they got to get some kinks out of it. But overall, I'm impressed with that. Any questions?
Yeah, no, I love.
Any idea how soon it might come out?
I think I went and got some coffee the last time. It may be a while before it come out, so I don't want to hold you guys. But the bottom line is this is what you're going to see inside of Photoshop. Whenever it finished.
No, I
I
wasn't
try to
talking
do
about
export
rendering.
an
I was
image.
asking
I don't
about
know. Let's see if
it,
that works.
Cornelius, I
Export.
wasn't asking about this image rendering. I was asking about when Adobe will release a non-beta version of the
Oh,
software.
I don't know when that is.
Mhm.
Yeah, they usually announce it and tell you that this is now part of Photoshop.
And could you just clarify if something's beta, can you use the things you produce with it?
Yeah, you could use it. You could use it however you want. And then what you can also do is sometimes they want you to provide feedback on how it's working. Like right here,
Mhm.
it has a series of questions, right? Thank you for trying Substance 3D Beta. What is your opinion?
Sure.
Essentially, I can't live without it. Useful, but I could not find a workaround. But I
Mhm.
could find a workaround, or not useful at all. Anything else you would like to say? And then there's questions 1 of 4. You submit that first question, and then I guess it's gonna. Well, let me just do. I'm gonna say
Sure.
useful. I'm gonna hit
It's a little
submit.
survey.
Yeah, and so it's give you a full question survey that you can send
Mhm.
to them. But usually, if you're following Photoshop, I mean Adobe on YouTube, whatever, you find out, oh, this is now part of Photoshop and not part of the beta. That's all I have, folks.
Well, that was terrific. Thank you so very much. That wraps up our meeting. We'll be meeting again on February 13th, second Thursday of the month. Meetings are free, and please visit the AustinAdobeUserGroup.com for more information.